All right. Good morning. We're
Good
live on
morning.
the We're one day. We're one Dave short. Dave's out for today.
Oh, okay.
He
Well,
said he had a
shoot.
sch- he said he had a scheduling conflict.
If I was getting paid $950 a session, I'd have conflict too.
Yeah, me too. Instead of Dave, we've replaced Dave with a special guest. Today, Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney is joining us from she's lounging around in jeans. I guess we wanted to lead with this because we realized we forgot to talk about it last time.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you have a chance. If you look for Mike Rowe, Mike Rowe did a jeans commercial like many years ago. Um, and surprisingly, there was no upset fans talking about it.
What? Wait a minute. Was it similar to this one? Is this what Mike Rowe was looking like?
He was holding the jeans in his hand. He was in his underwear, talking to his mom. His mom had breast cancer, and they were talking about the importance of good jeans. I mean, it was
No,
basically
really?
the same thing. Yeah, it was great. People had started sharing it after all the controversy. It was, I mean, it's hilarious. I don't know if you remember this, Jimmy. I still think you remind me so much of Mike Rowe. The tone of your voice, the inflections, the topics, the way you approach things. If I just listen to you and Mike talking, it's virtually indistinguishable in my head.
There's Mike Rowe and his mom in his underwear with great jeans.
Yeah.
Huh.
So there was no talk about eugenics when it comes to this. There is no controversy. Put Sydney Sweeney in her underwear holding her jeans and forget it. The internet will explode.
Yeah, I mean, this was done on purpose. I think what happened afterwards was not an accident, obviously. I think people have certain buttons that can be pushed, and that's what marketing can do. I shouldn't say that's what marketing does. It's not the only thing that marketing does. I think it's something that marketing can do. And they knew exactly what was going to happen as soon as they started talking about great jeans. I thought it was well written. I thought it was well executed. I thought it did I think it did more than what they thought it would do, in my opinion. And Tony's frozen. In terms of Mike Rowe, I do always love Mike Rowe's approach because Mike Rowe tells a story. If you've listened to his podcast, That's the Way I Heard It. He writes, or he at least wrote, every one of those episodes by hand himself. And I think he has a producer that might help a little bit. But I think the reason Mike Rowe and That's the Way I Heard It, that's how I heard it, his podcast, is he goes after the person first. And I think he's done with his TV show Dirty Jobs. And I know the show's about dirty jobs, but I think the success that Mike Rowe's work has had two different ways is because he didn't focus on jobs, or he focused on the people doing those jobs, which I think is a different approach, which is probably something I did in the beginning, the first 1,000 episodes of my podcast. And I think maybe I've gotten away from it just a little bit. As Tony comes back in. I'm not sure if you heard what I just said.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
That's all right. I was talking about why
say it again.
I was talking about why I think Mike Rowe is successful. I think his voice helps. I think his timing helps. I think those are nice. But I think he focuses on telling the story of people. As much as his TV show is called Dirty Jobs and was about jobs, the jobs were interesting. The jobs were a vehicle to get you to meet a couple of people. I mean, I think every episode, right, he had the same line where he's like, meet Steve. Steve and me are going to go out to the farm at 4:00 in the morning and whatever. And it really was about Steve. It was about putting himself in a vulnerable position, even though Mike's a pretty tough guy and he sort of knows some stuff. He always defaults to the person that he's with as the expert, because they are. And I think they delivered an anti-produced show. It was very unproduced. It was like, we want to tell the story and nothing else. They could have had CGI graphics. They could have had all this fancy stuff. And literally they stripped it down to, I love the behind the scenes stuff where you saw Mike's microphone guy, in waders up to his neck in swamp and holding the microphone over his head. And it was like, yeah, we could have done a whatever remote Bluetooth thing, but we got we got Mark over here holding the microphone, nipple deep in swamp water. I think I did a lot of that. I think actually in the last few years, the content and how I deliver it has changed. And I don't know if it's been a positive thing. I think I got away from people and stories and tried to be more tactical, more YouTube-y, where if you push play, nonstop content and nonstop information coming at you. I think there's enough people doing that. And I think maybe I don't know, maybe I lost my way a little bit.
Well, I think it's part of the evolution. Like, you go through this change when you're a novice. Go back to Bruce Lee, the famous quote, to a novice, a punch is just a punch, a kick is just a kick. To the expert, a punch is so much more than a punch. And then to the master, a punch is just a punch. Like, we all go through that. And even for me, outside looking in, I see your videos evolve. I see your content. I see you go from very raw, authentic to overproduced, and then start to go back to just basic. And so with Mike Rowe, with that Sydney Sweeney commercial, whatever, like, everything has intent. Everything has a purpose. When American Eagle put that ad out there, to our earlier point, they did it knowing that it's going to inflame a certain population. That's the whole point. But the population that it inflames is not the population that's going to buy their jeans. And I don't think they necessarily could have planned how big it.
Yeah, I think we're losing Tony again.
You
All right, well, maybe we'll see if Tony can reset the router. You really can't plan how big something. Oh, there you go. Now you're back.
I don't know. Shoot. Let me try one more thing. You keep going.
Yeah, you can't. I'll finish your thought with my second half of the thought, and maybe it's the same, which is you're really never able to predict what the audience is going to do, how big, if they're going to latch onto an idea or if they're going to reject the idea, or in this case, rejecting the idea or disliking the idea was sort of the aim. But you risk a lot by putting it out there like this. If this didn't catch on, if people didn't hate it, it would have just been a blonde girl in a bunch of denim. I don't think they were going to miss here. I think
nobody would have seen it.
Right.
Nobody would have seen it. If it didn't catch on, who cares? Like, it's just another piece of content that missed the mark.
Right. I mean, I was taught that, which is if you do something stupid and no one watches, no one watched you fail. So what's the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you guys heard it, if I lost the connection, but I was just saying, like, over the last month, my Facebook, I had been publishing like 100 posts in a month, 4 or 5 a day sometimes, and 2 caught fire. 2 reached over 1 million views. I had no idea these were posts that I had shared before that didn't do anything. It was just the right time, the right place, the right piece of content. We just can't be afraid to, like, put that stuff out there and see what happens.
Yeah. I think we're in an age of curated content where, especially brands, right? Social media started off with nitwits and their phone winging it. Someone's trying to bring back, remember the company Vine, like the 8-second videos? That was the limitation, which in the beginning sounded ridiculous. But the more limits you typically put on something, the more creative someone has to be, right? Like that's it. Like, stand-up comedy is different than a movie for time and for props and all those different things. So I think the limitations, when you put things in a box, it actually gets more creative. I did an internship at K-Rock in New York where Howard Stern was. When he went from FM radio, where he had all these rules and limitations, to XM in the beginning, where there was, nothing, he famously could say anything he wanted. I think he got worse until he found his footing, until he realized dropping F-bombs wasn't the thing he was missing for however many years. It was cute, right? It's like, talk to a 9-year-old when they start learning bad words and they start saying them when there are no adults around. They don't use them right? Like, and you can tell. It's like a 9-year-old wearing an adult's shoes. It's like, yeah, those are shoes, but they don't fit right. Like, you're not doing that right. So I think this tool of social media, brands took it and tried to polish the hell out of it. Remember, there was like, I don't know, well, maybe you weren't using Instagram this much, but there was a whole big thing about what your what your feed looked like. Like when you went to Tony's page and you looked at all the posts, people were like, well, I like every other one to be black and white and every other one to be color because people pay attention to that. I go, no one pays attention to that. You pay attention to that. People who think other people pay attention to that pay attention to that. What people care about is, am I going to be entertained, educated, not bored for the next 2 to 3 seconds? If the answer is maybe, I might stick around for another 2 to 3 seconds. It was not the aesthetic, but brands will try to see it from that point of view and try to make everything perfect. So there's many brands that would never, ever, ever produce 100 pieces of content to hope 2 would hit. You'd never get that past committee. I've been in those rooms. They want everyone to hit and go viral. And I'm like, that is the surest way to say nothing's going viral.
And ironically, like that's, as therapists, even in the clinic, we want things to be categorized and we want it to be real clean and we want the formula, because if I follow the formula, it's going to work every time. And you just can't. It doesn't. We're in an organic environment, whether we're talking about patient care and somebody has shoulder pain, or we're talking about media and we're putting out videos. You just have to put that stuff out there and see what works. There is no formula behind it. And I've never been more convinced than I am today, doing this stuff for over a decade. Like anybody who tells me this is what you do, they just don't know. They don't understand the way it works. Back to Mike Rowe real quick. Don't share these, but yesterday in the chat, I shared with Jimmy and Dave a dentist made up testimonial. That was hilarious. Just to give you the idea, it's person, they're reading a script, they're threatened with like the dental instruments, and it was really cute and it was funny. And then I found another version of a testimonial that wasn't supposed to be funny, but it's the same thing. It's like that hostage, the lights on the person, they don't know what to say. You can see them trying to remember what the therapist told them to say. If we just took a little bit of Mike Rowe's kind of perspective and like, look, just celebrate the person. When I share Don or Dale or any of my people, I'm not using them to make me sound great. I'm sharing the authenticity of these guys are coming in every day. They're talking about sports and bowling. They're having a good time. The quality of the therapy doesn't matter. What matters is these are the kind of people you want to be around. And if you want to be around these kinds of people, come down to Total Therapy Solutions. That's the message in the background.
Yeah, the worst thing to do if Tony had like 12 pieces of equipment and lights, and he was going to mic them up and do everything like totally crazy and run a microphone up their shirt. Now, okay, sit still. Like a lot of your videos are moving because people move, because this is supposed to be about movement. But put me against a blank wall, sit me in an awkward chair, tell me to look right here, but look natural, act natural is the quickest way to get the worst possible content ever.
Absolutely. So yesterday I shared a post that just was a rundown on some of the financials, because I know a lot of us are struggling with reimbursement. We're struggling with cash flow. Like, how do we make this work? Sarah Lyons, OT, I think she founded OT Potential. She shared a chart. I didn't send you the chart where it showed like the decline of reimbursement on an inflation adjusted basis. I think she went back to 2002. I ran numbers from 2012. And if you just look on an absolute value basis, so the actual numbers, we're down about 6% between 2012 and 2025. But corrected for inflation, we're down about 34%. We are making 34% less today than we did a decade ago or more. So, we can have conversations about how and why and what the deal is. I went out. Yeah, that's a great graphic. We have permission to share it. She put these numbers together. And what I thought was interesting, and I'd like to get your perspective, Jimmy, she said in the post, it was a LinkedIn post, she's been reluctant to share this graphic. And I was like, why? This is going to, if anything, I think it's going to encourage, motivate, excite private practice owners to be like, okay, this is the reality we're facing. And the fact that she was reluctant to share it, I think the reason, my estimate is, she knows that therapists don't want to face reality. We don't want to look at the situation for what it is. It's just like my patient who's in his 50s. He comes into the clinic, he's gained 20 pounds, he's out of shape. He used to be a college athlete. And now, he's struggling with everything. He doesn't want to get on the scale. He doesn't want to be tested. He doesn't want to see how much he has lost or declined. It's the person who doesn't want to look at their 401k. It's the person who doesn't want to look at their blood work. Like, we are living in denial, and I think we know that. What are your thoughts on something like this?
When you see this, so many conversations come to mind, right? Where's the APTA? How come they're not helping us? Well, you got other professions who use these codes too. These are codes, right? Am I reading this correctly? These are
the CPT code decline.
These are reimbursement values to CPT codes, right? So this is happening no matter who uses the code. So this is not profession agnostic. Now I understand, like, we use these codes a lot, so this is going to affect us a lot. You look at now, I would love to see, in addition to this, which would be the cost of education over the same time frame, because I think I'm looking
I grabbed that exact, looking at the cost of education. Of course, it was a mirror opposite of what we see there.
So, I mean, people say this all the time. I used to, so many times I flip-flop my ideas because I'm given new evidence and I change my mind. Some people look at as not being staunch and taking a position as weak. I look at it as I'm presented with new evidence. Today, your kids are in high school, right? Or they're close to it, right?
I've got 3 in high school, 1 in middle school.
If they were going to come to you with the cost of education laid on there and say, I wanted to start a PT clinic in 2028 or 2029, what would you say? We see these in Facebook groups a lot. Someone comes in and says, I've got a niece who's thinking about becoming a PT. What would you say? And overwhelmingly, I am not a statistician, but I'm going to say 80-20, 80% saying absolutely not, don't do it, worst ROI possible. And I used to say things are what you make them, and they are. But I don't know. I think I might lean towards the 80% and say this probably isn't a great business model, because who bleeds 30% over 20 years and gets away with it? Sorry, 30%.
Well, did you see my recent post where I said, like, things change, market demands change, customers change, everything changes. So the synopsis is, I said, look, nobody goes to, it's one thing if you're like me, 25 years in private practice. I've got a lot of advantages over anybody who wants to start today. I can, muscle my way through declining reimbursement. I've got a lot of room for it to continue to go down. But a new startup, like we talked about, ice harvesting used to be the biggest business in the world at one point.
Really?
There's nobody in Silicon Valley today who's going to start an ice harvesting business. The environment has changed. And so for us, if somebody says, I'm thinking about PT school, my first question is why? Now, I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, okay, what do you want? Well, I want to be a great therapist. I want to treat patients. Okay, you can do that. You can go get a job if that's what you want. If you say, I want to own a PT clinic, now we have a different conversation. Okay, well, what does that mean to you? Why do you want to own this? What's the objective? What are the goals? And I would not tell you to use the business model from 1970 where therapists were, $300, $400 reimbursements. That's not going to work in today's environment. So we need what we would call a physical therapy practice today is going to look very different. The television I buy at Costco today looks very different than the television I bought in 1985. Like they're just completely different products. So I would never say no. I would just say, okay, why? Just like a patient comes in, my shoulder hurts. I want to get better. Why? What are the goals? What do you want to achieve?
If we had an episode of Shark Tank where someone walked in and they were gonna pitch a PT clinic to the sharks are gonna want to know, how do you make your money, right? If the sharks are halfway intelligent, which they are, they're going to say, well, I treat and I bill insurance. And they're going to say, well, a buddy of mine showed me this graph. So what? Still not a bad idea, right? Because people are still going to need it. Demand's going to be there. But the question is, how are you going to make up 39%? What are you going to do? So people walking in the door, and we've talked about this, but I want to hear how you'd present it to the sharks. What would you say to them when you're like, yes, 30 years ago, reimbursement was fantastic, and you could exchange time for money and do this? They're going to ask, well, how else are you going to use this? Is this and they've asked us before, is this a product or a business? Is this a one-trick pony? Like you need shelf space at Bed Bath & Beyond or Target, and that's how you're going to make your money because this is all you're going to do? Or is this a line of whatever? Famously, at the APTA conference, I've got an episode coming out pretty soon. A PT created this bar of soap in the shape of like a Graston tool. It's not a Graston tool because he'd have to pay, royalties or whatever. But it was in the shape of a tool, so you could give yourself some IASTM while you're in the shower. And he said, they asked, is this a one-trick pony? He's like, no, I've got other products that we've already got in our head that complement and supplement this. If that were a clinic, how would you answer to sharks?
I always start with, what is your unique competitive advantage, right? Like, what do you have that the market absolutely needs, that they will climb over each other for? Yesterday, my twins are going into high school. It's a private high school. We went to a uniform sale. So you could get uniform shirts for $1 a piece. They're normally like $40. I got there early because I had to drop them off for sports. There was a line of well over 100 moms. I might have been the only dad out the back of the door. Like, it was like, and I know you're going to remember this, the craziness around Beanie Babies, Cabbage Patch Kids, like all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of excitement. Like, I felt like they were going to knock me over. That's the kind of excitement you want over a product when you're getting ready to go to market. So back to my competitive advantage. If I was coming in today, I would be like, okay, well, I've got social media, following. I've got an audience. These individuals are desperately needing this solution. But somebody else, it might be, a bar of soap. Hey, we're going to approach this market. There's a huge market for soft tissue mobilization. We're going to do it at home. I'm going to, create this product. There has to be something unique. You can't come in and say, I'm going to do what everybody else is doing. I'm just going to be a little bit better. That's never going to happen. Like, a little bit better is never going to work. It's got to be order of magnitude different and better.
So I've got a friend who has a Pilates clinic in one of the most financially difficult to succeed markets in the Washington, D.C. area. It's actually outside of D.C., which actually makes it a little harder. And overwhelmingly, I think that one of the reasons she's successful is she's got a great location. That's good, right? That's table stakes. The building, the facility, when you walk in there and whatever she charges, you're like, yeah, okay. To be here, I need to pay a premium. It feels good. I think the difference in hers, the unique competitive advantage, the differentiator, is the people that she needed to be really different. And then the people she picks. I don't even know if she would. I think she would know because she's super smart, but I think she's the unique competitive advantage. So I think if she were on Shark Tank, they'd go, I'd invest in you, but how do we scale you? So that's the problem. How do you scale a person like this? If we were like, we want one of these in every major metro, she would need to fly around the country. Or how do you scale that thing? Is that the thing that PTs run into? It's similar. Like, she is a PT, by the way, and it's the biggest Trojan horse on the planet. She has a Pilates studio, right? Nothing says PT, but she's doing PT the whole freaking time in group classes, but she never calls it that. Like, her model could be scalable to major metros across the country. I'm trying to think of the reason why it might fail. The only reason it might fail, the biggest way for it to succeed, is she'd have to be there, because or she'd need, her job would now not be able to teach classes as much, or maybe at all, because now she needs to be a CEO, which is the same thing that happens when you're a clinician and you want to open a business. You're like, well, I just treat, and every once in a while I yell something or I answer a question. I've never done it. I'm going to guess no. That's why things fail. Or you might not just be good at that.
Yeah, that's the trap so many of us fall into. Scott mentioned 7 levels of why. It seems like something you would know about. But we tend to fail because we go in with the idea and the mindset that I want to be a therapist. I want to be a great therapist. I'm going to build this around me. And then all of a sudden we realize we never can get away. You know, this is the whole idea behind the E-Myth Revisited book and all of the other little entrepreneurial books that are out there. Ever since probably the last 10 years, if I'm going to get into a business, it is never going to be a business built on me anymore, because I don't want to be tied to anything. It's going to be a productized business. It can still be a service. I can productize a service. I can take the things that I deliver as a clinician that I think make it a magical experience, and I can productize those things. I can train people to deliver that experience. I can create systems that deliver that experience. It doesn't have to be me delivering the experience.
All right, so let's do this. Let's say we can do the 7 levels of why, because now Scott has me interested and I'm using ChatGPT. So we'll go through it with Tony. Tony, as a clinic owner, what is the big goal for your clinic in the next 3 to 5 years?
Honestly, I would say to, I'm not sure I know.
Do you want to grow your clinic? Do you want to prepare it to be sold? Do you want to expand into locations? Like, what's the primary thing? And we'll do the 7.
Okay, let's say for me, it's going to be prepare to be sold.
Okay. Okay. So then you would ask, I guess, I mean, the name is pretty good, 7 levels of why. So let's do it. So it's all right. So you want to prepare to sell your business, your PT clinic, in 3 to 5 years. Why do you want to prepare to sell your business in 3 to 5 years? That's level 1.
Sure, because I want to cash out on the value that I've built. I want to take, a system that's working, and I want to extract the value of that system.
Okay, perfect. Then you'd go to level 2. Level 2 question. Okay, perfect. So you just keep asking why till you get to the core. This is like, without ever having heard this, Scott, I call this peeling the onion, which is like, there's no pit. There's no way to, there's nothing in the middle of an onion. The process is the goal, which is like, well, why? And the idea is you ultimately get to the purpose of that why. So which Simon Sinek says, start with why. This one just says ask why 7 times and get deeper and figure out why you're actually wanting to do this. And things, I'm guessing it's for clarity. It's to figure out what your next move is, because selling in 3 to 5 years is a big, hairy, scary thing.
And I think it helps you realize that there might be better ways to do that. Okay, so like, let's go a couple levels deep at least. What's my goal? I want to sell. I want to build a practice that I can sell. Okay, why do I want to sell it? Because I want to extract the value of what we've created over the last 25 years. Okay, well, why do you need to extract that value? Because the risk continues to increase of compliance violations, audits. I could lose everything. I want to get out before I lose everything. The risk of that's what I want to reduce, and I want that money. Okay, well, why do you want the money? Because I want to be able to know that I've got college funding for my kids. I've got a nest egg that I can sit on, and I have the freedom to do other things, and I think as you keep going through that, well, why do you want to do other things? Well, because I've kind of run the course with the PT business, and the risk to benefit ratio is getting out of whack. I don't want to stay in this. And then you're like, well, wait a minute. Am I costing myself more staying in the business as it is today for another 3 to 5 years? For, what's the exit going to be? Let's say net after everything, I take a couple $100,000 away from it. I could probably get into something better right now that's going to generate a couple $100,000 in a year or two. Like, do I have to stay in this to generate that money? It's the golden handcuffs. I think this is probably holding me back more than it's propelling me forward. So for me, I think that's the ultimate objective of that is there a better way? If I really just want the money, can I make money doing something else? And if I just want to treat for fun, can I do that also for free? Right. Like, Tony, great job. Spot on. Yeah. Okay, good.
Well, it'll help you guide your next decision. Well, why do you want to do that? Well, why do you want to do that? Because sometimes we get locked in, well, that's the only way to get there. It's like, Is it? Because it sounds like, it feels like, this goes back to like I forget the guy's name now, the negotiator guy, Chris Voss. Sounds like, it feels like, why do you want to do that? Right? Chris Voss uses it to get a bank robber to actually come out. It's like, dude, you're surrounded. I want a helicopter. Why? I want to fly away. Where do you think, where are you going? Why do you want to fly away? Well, I want to get out of here because this is scary. Okay, well, I can get you out of there because I can get you out safely. Helicopter's probably not going to do it. Right? Like, so you get to that ultimate route. This was famous in the movie Inception. Are you a movie guy? I don't know if we were talking. So Inception essentially is like this weird movie where you can like enter someone's dreams. So you enter their dream and you can plant an idea. Because the idea is, if I come to your house and I have a gun in my hand and I go, Tony, give me all your money, I'm going to get it, but there's a risk that I get caught, yada, yada. The idea here is you can get into someone's dream, plant an idea as a dream, and then they do the thing for you. So they were trying to get this guy to break up his father's company because they wanted to do a hostile takeover. The guy who hired this Leonardo DiCaprio's dream team or whatever to go in there. And they said it has to be his idea. So they went even deeper than a business idea or a strategy idea. It was about his emotion to his dad. That was the idea, is like, show your dad that you are worth something by doing the smart move and break up the company. So you have to sort of get to that Inception idea. We know this. When you want to manipulate a kid into going to bed early, or an adult into doing a decision, you make it their idea. And that's the magic. That's why I tell people all the time, listen, I make suggestions, you make decisions. But if I keep asking, why do you want to do that? Or why, eventually you're going to walk into your own idea. And then I'm either a good idea or I'm not. But you're going to make that decision. I'm not going to pressure you into it.
Can you pull up that screenshot? And, we'll take this, continue this idea. So when you look at, and I just did this yesterday again, or the day before, you look at U.S. Physical Therapy financial reports, their 2024 annual numbers, they're at about 59%, almost 60% of revenue goes to salaries and related costs. About 20%, I want to say 20, goes to like overhead and operations, rents, things like that. And then you break it down from there. Their net, let's just say like 12% goes to management costs, and then the rest goes to profit. But when you look at the numbers that Jimmy's going to pull up here in a minute, I was doing, in 2023, I was doing about double what you're going to see now. So are you getting it?
No. What am I looking up?
Oh, sorry. No, I sent you in the chat.
Oh, you did? Okay. I'll look it up.
The money that I'm making from like courses and YouTube.
Yeah, I've got that right here.
Yeah. Okay, so it's kind of hard to see. I'll just read the numbers off real quick. The biggest revenue driver right now is courses, $41,000 over the last 12 months. YouTube, for one YouTube channel, this is the Total Knee channel, 11,500 over the last 12 months. Amazon influencer, about 9,000 over the last 12 months. And the newest monetization came from Facebook business page, about 1,600, but that just started in April of this year. So if we do a little quick math, we're looking at about $60,000. The thing with this is, and I always go back to this, if I was running, a clinic, which I do, and I'm running a 15% profit margin, we look at how much revenue would I need to generate to create $60,000 a year in profit after expenses. And whatever that number is, I'm not going to do the math. The idea is I'm doing that right now on the side. Like, I'm generating 60,000. A couple of years ago, I was $120,000. Now, Amazon got cut in half. My digital content, my digital products got cut in half. YouTube's been about the same the whole time. So there's going to be ebbs and flows there. But my point being is, people always ask, how much extra time does it take you to make that money? It doesn't really take me much. Like, I record all my videos during patient care time. I do a couple things on the side. I teach my Medicare course, which is like 9 hours a month of teaching time, but it's not that much. And when you say there's no audit risk, there's no HIPAA privacy risk, Nobody's going to come back in 2 years and ask to see my books and take money away if they think I didn't document things correctly. The risk to benefit is just through the roof. So back to why am I still wasting time battling insurance companies and patients and doctors and compliance when I can go straight all digital? And I still truly get the personal satisfaction of knowing, okay, I created a piece of content that answered a question that literally millions of people have seen now. I could never do that in the clinic. I have one person, three. I can't help millions. This gives millions of people free access to healthcare that they would not have otherwise gotten. Like there's a personal joy and satisfaction, fulfillment in that, as much as there is going out into the clinic and somebody telling me that, they feel so much better today.
So what happens in the profession 5 years from now? Like, the people who won't adapt will ride this down until they can't cover their payroll and more and their overhead, right? I mean, this is going to force people, when the sea levels start rising, the people who are living in the mountains are going to go, well, I'm not wet. And the people who bought boats are going to float. So what does this say? Is this adapt or die moment?
I'm going to say just like TVs, right? Again, the TV analogy. A 1985 TV looks very different than a 2025 TV. When I look at that, and I've had this conversation with, people in high places, I'm like, look, basically what my business looks like today, I could not come into this market. I would not come into this market today. So we eliminate all the private practice owners. We eliminate all the small providers. Everybody with any level of expertise gets out of Medicare reimbursement, third-party reimbursement in general. All of that migrates into hospital-based outpatient, university-based centers. Like, those are the ones that are getting the government money on top of the Medicare reimbursement. They're the ones that could afford it. And truthfully, I go back to, if I just want to be a great therapist, I want to be Scott and I want to work to the highest of my capacity, I don't want to think about marketing and management and hiring and firing and, buying supplies and restocking toilet paper. I want to put all of my mental energy into the patient that's in front of me. That is basically the ideal therapist to work for a hospital, work for a university, work for somebody with federal funding, with tax dollars beyond just the reimbursement dollars. So that's what I see happening. I see all of the private stuff going away. Those providers just move into different areas. If we still want to help people get better, we do it in different ways. If we still have the mandatory claim submission law and we still can't do covered services for Medicare beneficiaries, we just don't do covered services. We let the universities and the hospitals do that. Then when they get discharged, they come out to us, and that's what I see the future is. My kind of business is gone because you just cannot operate in the environment the way it is.
You're going to tell this to so many people and they're going to listen only so much. Did you see the numbers from Hinge numbers came out yesterday? Did you see these?
Yeah.
I figure we'd be talking about these. I'm going to read them. You explain to me what they are. This is the best job ever. I say stuff and Tony does the explaining.
We need Dave for this, but I'll do my best.
Yeah, Dave, you guys see it differently. Hinge Health's first quarterly earnings, Q2 revenue grew 55% year over year to $139 million. What's that mean?
So even just take this down, right? Eliminate 6 of the 7 zeros. Who has a business right now, small private practice, who's growing at a rate of 55%? Nobody. Nobody has quarterly growth like that. These guys can do it. And we talked about this. I think it's public knowledge because they figured out a way to productize the service in a way the consumer, they don't care about other therapists. What does the consumer want? The consumer wants cheap access to musculoskeletal information. They productize it. One therapist can manage 700 patients. Not one therapist manages 7 patients. And because they did that, they're virtually it's not doubling, but you get the idea. Like they're growing like crazy. Money coming in is accelerating faster than I could see any private practice doing.
Okay, how about down the line? 33 million in free cash flow. How do you explain cash flow to an idiot like me?
I don't want to try.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what other things on this screen and these numbers make you say whether you'd buy, hold, or sell?
So normally you're looking for growth. When you're deciding what's a stock worth, you're not looking at how are they doing today, especially a company like this. You're looking at, okay, are they going to be double, triple, quadruple the size in a year, in 5 years? How big is the market ahead of them? How much space do they have? As I just mentioned, private practice is going away. That is market share that's available for Hinge and Sword and all of these guys. What you don't know, none of us know on the outside looking in is, well, what's the management team like? How are they going to handle this? Do they have the infrastructure in place for growth? If I open a new business today and I have 3 therapists and 7 patients, I've got tons of capacity to grow, right? But if I open a practice today and I have 1 therapist and 7 patients, I don't have much growth left. It looks like I'm growing fast, but I don't have the infrastructure down the road to double and triple. So I don't know. It's a guessing game. I mean, this takes us, into a whole new world. But to me, I think we see where the money is going. We see the solution they created. A lot of therapists don't like that as an option. They don't like what Hinge does. They don't like what Sword does. I don't care what you like or what I like or what anyone likes. Right. It's what does the market want? And one of the things that really disturbs me more than anything, I screenshotted this comment. I made a post and I made it private because I didn't want anybody to see it, but I'm going to share it with you guys.
Okay.
Somebody on the LinkedIn, Sarah Lyons graph, somebody basically in the bottom of their comment said, it's unfair. As soon as I hear the word unfair, my radar goes up. It's unfair that supply and demand control value more than the actual value of the service. Like I said, that's just this is somebody that's controlled ideologically and doesn't understand. It's like me saying it's unfair that fish can breathe underwater. It has nothing to do with fairness. This is the way it is. And so I go back to there's a lot of, you call it the, what do you call it? The something gene, the free
Peace Corps.
Yeah, Peace Corps gene. I don't know. I think if you want to be like that, and that's fine. I appreciate you. We need people like you. Go work for a hospital. Go work for government. Go do something that you don't have to worry about the value you create, and you can just make the money that you want to make. Everybody else who wants to be creative and build something and struggle and fight and claw your way to success, those are the ones that are going to do well in private practice.
Yeah. Going back to what you said about multiplication of being able to answer one question 1,000,000 times. There's no way you can answer a question about post-knee surgery 1,000,000 times in clinic, but you can do it with one video. So I did some statistical analysis. This is not in-depth statistical analysis, but I took the stats from my podcast over the we're coming up on 10 years. 10 years I've been doing this ridiculous podcast. So some quick math, right? Total downloads is 5.2 million. I just guessed average episode length 35, although I probably have a little bit more because there's some that were an hour and 20 in the beginning, especially. I just sort of let it go. And impactful plays, that's where someone completes more than 3/4 of the episode. We get a 94% average. So it means when someone pushes play, they hit at least the 3/4 mark before they bail out. So it's not just someone downloading and pushing play and then leaving, right? So you want to talk about what a podcast or video or any of these things can do. This is not a brag. This is compounding on time. So what it's saying is 5.2 million plays times 35 minutes is 184 million minutes. That's 35.18 decades worth of attention. Do you think as a university teaching students, how hard would it be to get to 35 decades worth of attention. Let's say you have 30 students and one professor and 3 hours a week. That's hard. Like, I put this in perspective as somebody who was just launching a podcast, and she was like, well, I'm not getting the numbers you are. And I said, well, think, number one, my numbers have gone down. More podcasts are showing up. I understand how pi works, right? Attention spans are pi. I said, and she was getting 200 to 300 downloads an episode. And she's like, that's nothing. And I said, if you had a happy hour down the street from your house once a week and 200 people showed up for an hour, you'd say that's a failure? Now, it's harder for her to see this because it's hard to see until someone explains it to you. I was like, well, you're not monetizing that. So it feels like you're doing all this work, and you are, and you're getting a little number on a screen that says 202. And you're like, well, what happened there? And I was like, well, you don't have a product or service right now to offer those people yet. My first question is, if you want to do the 7 levels of why are you doing this? Well, I really love to share my information. Okay. Why do you love to share your information? I love to learn stuff, and I love to have other people learn stuff. I love to be the person who facilitates learning. And then I would stop there. I know it's 7 levels of learning. I would stop and be like, aren't you doing that? How could you do that more? Could you do it more often? Like, then it goes to like the exercise principles: frequency, intensity, time, type, volume, and per direct. Could you do more? Could you do 2 episodes a week? Could you share them in different places to get different people outside the 200? Could you quite simply start your next 10 episodes by saying, I love you guys, the strong 200 that show up every week. If you could suggest this to one friend, we might be able to bring more people, and tell me who you think I should have on or what thing you want to learn, and I will pivot to that if it's a good idea. And suddenly her perspective changed. But that's why I wanted to show this, which was like, it's kind of crazy what you can do with this stupid little live stream. Right now, Tony, there's 23 people watching us. 23. Yeah. It's not a business model. If I went to a huge, large company and said, I'm going to do it, you're going to pay me, and the only thing I'm going to do for you is live streams, they'd be like, you're an idiot. 23 people? Let me show you how that 23 people can compound, because 23 people are here right now. What can I do with this 60 minutes of stuff that we've done? It might just spark an idea. This was a great perspective I was given years ago. I needed permission, a signed permission slip from my boss, Chris, if I wanted to spend $500 or more. And then he looked around the room at a meeting someone called that said everybody in the building has to come to this meeting for an hour. And he said, what do you think this meeting costs? I was like, well, nothing. We're leasing the space. And he goes, we're paying all these people by the hour or by the second or by the year, whatever you want to measure it. And we just wasted a bunch of the time because this meeting could have been an email. So it's like spend and pay are 2 different things, right? So what could you be doing? And the people that don't see it are the people that I think partly will be left behind. I'm not saying every clinic or whatever needs to be a media company. I'm saying it is one way of connecting.
Dan's asking who I would want as a buyer. Dan, I don't know if you know. So Justin Stiver down in Florida bought. He was an employee of mine, and we worked together for years. And he bought my Florida location, and then he just exploded it. From a fulfillment perspective, that was amazing. Like, to see him, a relatively young new professional, take over what had been a stagnant clinic for years, because we weren't local. We were in Ohio for years before he bought it, and turn it into an empire, which is really what he has built, is amazing. So I think what you're kind of asking is, do I have an emotional tie, and what would I like to see happen, and what's going on? I kind of filled that bucket when Justin bought and built and grew my Florida clinic. Now it's transactional. I don't care. We have an amazing community. We've been here since 2006. The people come, their family, their neighbors, their friends. Like, obviously I wouldn't want to destroy that, but I tell you what, back to the bigger topic, there's a NovaCare across the street. There's an Athletico up the road. We don't have any ATIs locally that I know of, but I see patients all the time that still love going to their Athletico therapist. Jimmy, we talked about, like, they're great therapists in these bigger corporate groups.
They are.
And there are patients who love going to them. So if somebody like that wanted to come in, piece of cake, I'd be happy to sell it to them, because I know they're going to do a good job. That was
the reason a while ago I sort of went on a rant or a tangent where I was like, I need you to write down the inclusion and exclusion criteria for a PT mill.
Right.
And no one can do it, right? And it was on purpose. It was an exercise in futility, because I'm saying is like, then I need you to show me what a crappy PT looks like. No, and they're like, well, they do this. No. I want you to show me one, a human. Show me one of those. And I'm not saying there aren't out there. What I'm saying is when someone gets a group of people together and then says that group's bad, and then I go zoom in super close, right? Is that person bad? Well, no, not that person. Well, how about that person? Well, no, not that person. And where's it go wrong? I don't have the answer, but I think this is more of the question is like, why did ATI? Why did the price not work? Physical therapy doesn't work. Well, there's a whole bunch of people making it work. Where was the issue? Because you can't just throw the baby and the bathwater out. You can't say the baby and the bath are bad, because they're neither, right? So I think I went on that rant. I did have a yard sale 2 weeks ago, and I was selling some of my dad's tools, some stuff that he's never going to use. And I had a friend look at him, and I'm just like, hey, man, I don't understand what I'm looking at. I know what these tools are, and they do, but like, what's worth something? What should I keep? What am I even going to use? If I'm not going to use it in the next year, I'm going to get rid of it. So he told me what to get rid of. And there was this really cool router set. You know what a router is?
Yeah.
So got a router set with the bits that were like in wooden boxes. Like this was legit. This was like a while ago. And 4 guys walked up to my yard sale. Only one of them spoke English. And my buddy was like, this is $100 because the wood, because the bits alone, he's screw the router. The bits alone are $100 because they're nice. They're Sears like wooden box router set. These guys didn't have $100 for a router, but I could tell what they were doing. They were buying tools so they could make some money. So asking who your buyer would be for your first one with Justin, you explained, I literally said, are you going to use my first? He said, how much? I said, I responded with a question, which is a smart negotiating move, but I wasn't negotiating. My question was, are you going to use it? So through his translator, he turned and walked away. I think I was like, I guess I pissed the guy off. What he was doing was opening up the photos on his phone, and he came back and showed me stuff that he built. And then I said, make me an offer. Like, I want to give this to you because it's going to sit in my garage and do nothing and rot. I'm never going to use it. Listen, I ain't going to use it. I'm being realistic, right? So I think it's transactional, but you have enough roots in that community where you're like, I want someone who's going to do well by this. I want someone who's going to go elbow deep, right? I'm guessing there. You're not all transactional as much as I know about you, right?
Probably right. Probably like an ideal story situation would be somebody local. They have family. They want to take what we've built and then accelerate on top of it. And the real value, and Dave and I have talked about this publicly, the real value, we're not a high profit margin physical therapy clinic. You know, I already showed you, I said, if we didn't have the other stuff, if I didn't own the real estate, if I didn't have the digital assets, if I didn't have the other stuff, I'd barely be squeaking out a living with the physical therapy clinic, but that's not my top priority. And so the real value is not in the profit the clinic produces. Scott mentioned the clinic's a loss leader. It kind of is. The value to a buyer coming in is we get, I don't know, 30, 40 new referrals a month. We get patients that are coming for multiple episodes a year. We've got people, we don't spend any money on marketing because we've been here for so long. We've got a wellness program, a non-covered maintenance program that generates money month over month. So if somebody comes in and they're like, I want to be a great therapist, but I don't want to build out the infrastructure, that's what we sell. That's the value in something like this.
Well, the crazy thing, and we could probably do an entire episode on this, is someone told me, or I read somewhere, that Hilton doesn't actually run or own a hotel. You essentially license the infrastructure. Like, we'll give you the Hilton way, and you can and the name, and then we get a cut of that. So essentially, they built the process and built it so well. Would love to see how that starts in the beginning, though. Hi, I'm Conrad Hilton. I got a great process. Just trust me. I'm going to sell it to you. You're going to run this hotel. They must have started with a few to prove out the concept.
Sure.
But then they're like, hey, what business are we actually in? It's not handing keys out or cleaning beds. It's processizing, right? Like I told this story before, which is when I was in college, I was like, I want to own a bar when I graduate from college. And my uncle let me work in his bar for a summer. At the end of the summer, he goes, what are you thinking? I go, I want to go to bars. I want to go work somewhere else. I want to come here and hang out, get the thing that I get from bars, which isn't alcohol or food, it's vibe. Also, the alcohol and food come later. But is that where ATI is failing? I don't know. Like, because ATI tries to do both, right? They're like, we're gonna infrastructure this and we're gonna run it. I don't know, but something's wrong, and it's not just no offense, but it's not just ATI. Like, they were just the one everybody got to point and look at and say, see, big doesn't mean better. I get it, but better means better, and better at scale should be better. But it's simple to say and easy and not easy to do.
Yeah. It's just those companies at that size, it's just so hard to really understand all of the aspects and components. And there are so many hidden elements that we can't necessarily put a finger on. Let's wrap it up. Let's think
also,
about
what do you think this does when you're that big? Right? That's even bigger. Like the bigger you are, the harder you fall and the faster you fall. Maybe the canary in the coal mine, right? I mean,
yeah. And we see legacy companies. I mean, ATI has been around for 20 years. I forget. I saw the original start date, but it's like Kodak had the original digital camera and didn't do anything with it because they were a film company. We've seen this story too many times, but now with AI coming out, AI first business models coming out, like Access. One of the things that I mentioned or I meant to say was we build businesses based on ourselves. I am a good physical therapist. I'm going to deliver a great experience. I've got patients who want to see me, but that's not scalable. Well, now it is, because now I can have an AI model that looks like me, sounds like me, thinks better than me, never has a sick day, never has a frustrated day, never gets into a fight with their kids before work. That AI model can clone me 1,000,000 times. Now, for the first time in history, we can actually clone digital versions of ourselves that are probably better than the real version, in a lot of ways. So that's where I see things going. I do think Hinge and Sword and those guys are a transition to the future. I don't think they are the future. They're just kind of a stepping stone to it. So for me, obviously not investment advice, I would never invest in those companies, no matter how great they do right now, because I just think that where they are is a step to something else. And I don't know that they're going to get to something else. I think somebody else is going to come along and create that something else that it's going to be the future.
Yeah. All right.
That was my parting shot.
That was your parting shot. My parting shot. Gosh, what did we talk about today? What we talked about at the beginning? Sydney Sweeney. Say the thing. Say it on repeat. Right. Sydney Sweeney's got good genes. Outlandish, ridiculous. It was time and place too, because the same ad didn't do anything 15, 20 years ago. As you pointed out, I didn't even know this. Didn't go anywhere. That's a well-written ad. Micro has great genes. It's a great.
It really is. Yeah.
So's this though. It's also good. So say the thing. And take a lot of shots. Tony mentioned 100 videos to get 2 to really pop. That 2% is pretty good, I guess, right? But you're talking about millions of something. You got to take a lot of shots. You got to take a lot of hacks in the batting cage before you hit a home run. Tony, have a good weekend. Follow everything that Tony does. Learn Medicare billing. You have a cohort going right now, don't you?
Yeah. 0 to Paid is the course, but find PT Breakfast Club Tuesdays and Thursdays, mornings Eastern, 8:30. Check out Dave Kittle Show. Check out PT Pintcast, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks, Jimmy.